There we go. All right, and so thank you, Judith, for help reminding me to record. I just like to remind everybody that this conversation is sponsored by the William Glasser Institute. Excuse me, the Glasser Institute for Choice Theory. And I always say I'm grateful for it because I am grateful for it. There's so many things going on in our country right now around the issue of diversity. And if we could just get more people to get to a place where they understand if they just stop trying to control other people, we would have such a much easier life. We would be able to really get along a whole lot better. And it's recorded because it's a teaching, a part of the teaching for the Institute is offered to people who cannot, may not be able to attend on Saturday afternoon, morning, as in Judith's case, and but they are interested in the information. So it's here, and I'm really grateful to hear about, like sometimes people send me emails and tell me they actually watch them. And that they were very encouraged by the information that we shared and the way that we share information in these groups. I am the Gloria Cisse, and I'm the chair of the Glasser Institute for Choice Theory's Diversity Council. My co-chair is, well, he's not my co-chair, but the co-chair of the council is Akmos Neb Pethera. And one of the individuals who is here and is also on the board of the Glasser Institute for Choice Theory and such a wonderful support is Judith Ashley. And Judith is such a wonderful advocate, champion for conversations around diversity. And she doesn't, I think of Judith as fearless because it doesn't matter what room we're in, what conversation, Judith is going to say she's going to state Judith's truth. And part of that is that we really, all of us need to be having these conversations. So I'm really, and I know Neb does the same thing. I don't know any other people I would rather have in my corner than these two people, especially when I got to go to battle with somebody in the Glasser, in that world. But I'm grateful for all of you here, being here. And so today's conversation, and this is a topic that just kind of occurred to me a few minutes ago, but it's Mental Health Awareness Month. And I know that one of the social determinants of mental health is the issue of racism and all the isms that we have to kind of struggle with in this society. So I want us to talk about the intersection of diversity or diversity issues in mental health. So I'm putting that out there and hoping that we can have a somewhat logical, rational, wonderful conversation, as we usually do, about that topic. So I already said, and there's an article that I read it some time ago because, we do a lot of mental health work in Macon with the county and our county commission. And so I had to come up with, we talk a lot about the social determinants of health, but we don't always talk about the social determinants of mental health. And they're pretty much the same. But I found this article written by Michael Compton, MD, and Ruth Shim, SHIM, MD, about the social determinants of mental health. And they talk about there's not much distinction. I mean, they're pretty much still the same as the ones that we have for physical health. But they wanted to weigh in on the conversation about how these things do determine or have an impact on our mental health. So they include things like access to quality care and what is it? The built spaces and access to quality food, access to good health care, the things that we are already familiar with. But because it is such a thing, and until I started looking for information about this, I didn't know about it. I just wanted to drop it in there and let's see what we can talk about, how we can talk about it. Anybody have anything to add or to say about mental health? And probably nobody else thinks about this. Huh?
One of the things as you're talking, what struck me is, and I apologize for not remembering his name, but the young man who died in the chokehold in
Oh, yeah.
New York,
Mhm.
okay.
Yeah.
He had loving family. They were trying to get resources. One of my friends here in Oregon, they have fought for, I don't know, 2-3 years to get their daughter mental health services when she's like, I don't need that, because, the aliens are really real. So why should I have to go to a hospital? Because they'll just try and tell me that I'm crazy when I know I'm not. They're the ones that are crazy, so what I think is true from Oregon to New York is the system is broken no matter your age, your race, your income, whether you have the supportive family and all of that. If you don't have those things, it's worse. But it isn't like if you have a supportive family and they actually have some finances and they're out trying to get services for you, that's going to do anything either.
What I wonder about, as I, think about that situation, if he had not been a person of color, would he have been treated differently? Would people have responded to him differently? Would they have seen the mental illness and not seen it as a threat? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. And mental illness, the people I've known and I've been case manager for, etc., they're just very vulnerable people. And I had one client, and when he was doing whatever I knew he was, because I was actually his legal guardian, I always talked to the police before they went out to, and if possible, I went to where he was, because I knew that if I was there, he would be less likely to fight, try and escape, do all of those kinds of, call them names, whatever, spit on them, all of those kinds of things, because I had the relationship with him. But if he was, he was clearly delusional. So I don't know exactly what the answer is. It's just, to me, it's one of those, it depends. It depends upon who's around. If there are people who are familiar with mental health issues around, they may be able to say, no, that this is a mental health issue. He's not really, or she's not really a threat. But if you just have the average everyday people out there who in our country at this time is driven by fear of others,
Mhm.
and others is not necessarily people of color. It's just other. You're not like me in whatever way, therefore you are a danger. And so I think it's more risky now.
Mm.
I think people with mental health issues who have the kind that and are out in the public sphere, I think they are in more danger. I mean, that's just my observation.
Regardless of
Just
the.
observation, there's no research behind it. It's
Mhm, mhm.
but I don't know.
Yeah, yeah. That's kind of his name is Alexandra Kleeman, I think, Kleeman. Alexandra, I think I just looked it up and I believe that, hold on, maybe I got that incorrect. Let me look it in the article in the New Yorker. I didn't get his name accurately, but the other piece, the other thing I wondered about, nope, that's not his name. It was the person who wrote the article. And so she doesn't have his name accessible, but I'm sure somebody will find it before I have a chance to find it.
Are you talking about Penny?
What's the young man's name that was killed in New York on the train? Was it Kenny something? I just Googled it and it didn't, the correct name didn't. And I don't know why they insist on using the word choke. Are you there, Neb? Your microphone
Oh,
is
I'm sorry. His name is Daniel Penny.
Daniel Penny. Okay, thank you. That's his name, Daniel Penny. All right, thank you. All right, so how do we do something about that? If it has nothing to do with anything other than our desire or our continuing to other people, what do we do? What can we do about, how can we change that? What can we do?
One of the challenges, it's not just other anymore, it's also fear.
Okay.
I'm back to not watching the news because it seems to me every time I turned it on over the last few weeks, there was another mass shooting somewhere.
Somewhere. Mhm.
And, I co-facilitate the North-Northeast Public Safety Action Committee, which is connected to our North Precinct Police Department.
Mhm.
And, it's like at our June meeting, I hope to actually have a discussion. I know we have some Proud Boys and Oath Keepers in the area.
Mhm.
I know that the police know who they are because they've told me that much.
Mhm. Mhm.
But no, they're not going to tell me where they live or anything like that kind of thing. It's enough to know that they're not in denial that any of those people are here in my area. But it's like I second guess myself just going to the grocery store.
Mhm.
And we have had a couple of mass shootings here in Oregon, not as many as in some parts of the country, and none for, well, knock on wood. But it's like it's so pervasive. And so when you add that layer onto other, it's more than just, oh, they're not like me and they're acting weird, strange, crazy, whatever. it's, you have that whole fear thing that I think pops up with not everybody by any means, but some. And if you are one of those people who, when you see somebody other who is acting weird or strange or crazy or whatever, you're, you have the fight, flight, freeze. Well, if you are fear motivated and you have, I mean, the man who has been charged has been in the military. So, I mean, he's more likely to have the fight response than the freeze or flight response. So, it's just that we have, from my perspective, have created this very dangerous
atmosphere
recipe, I'll call it, for for people and people who are vulnerable. So children are vulnerable. If you're in your church or synagogue or mosque and you're praying, you're vulnerable. I mean, you're not thinking about what's going on out there at that point. You're in inner and with your God, and and that's if you're a young man and you're doing whatever on the New York City subway and somebody's, I'm sure race played a part. I just don't know that race was all of it.
Okay. All right. And you know what I was reminded of as I listened to you, Judith, was fear is really such an interesting concept. And I think, from a lot of things have happened in this country where folks in power ensured that people were afraid or fearful of people of color, right?
Right, there's that.
Yeah, and so so when we and then the I mean it really is interesting because I have been talking to a lot of people lately about fear and safety, right? So how do we create communities where people feel safe and conversations like that, but I would and I've had the pleasure of speaking with people who have a sense of safety that I have never experienced. Never. And it's really challenging to be able to explain to you what I mean by that. I don't walk around afraid of everything all day long. But when I sit with people and the things that I am challenged by, and I really should have I should be able to enumerate a couple of those things that cause me to feel unsafe, but I can't right this minute. But when I'm sitting with someone who things that I know, places I go or things that I do that cause me overwhelming fear and they don't have it, I just do not understand. I don't understand how that happens, except for this a perceived sense that I don't have to worry about the world. And I know that they're outside, and I'm not just talking about men, because men have more opportunities not to be fearful of things than I think than women do, and it just depends too. But these are people that I don't know how you get to that place. So I think about the fear that is associated with othering mostly as a racial phenomenon.
And I think that that's probably most visible othering,
Yeah, okay.
but there's the subtle othering.
Mhm.
You know, being old, you're a
Yeah.
mother, and you do
Yeah,
not
yeah.
have to, you know, you're either, what I have found, not, I shouldn't speak for all older people, but I either have people totally dismiss me because I'm old,
Mhm.
therefore, or, oh, you know, let me help you. Well, no, I'm an independent person. I'll ask for help if I need it, you
Mhm.
know, kind of thing. So, but the other part of it, though, Gloria, is I totally believe that safety is a myth.
Ah, okay.
And so there is no such thing as safety. We do the best we can to be aware of our surroundings and what's going on. But when I fly to St. Louis, I'm going to have to go through the safety check.
Mhm.
And I will not have a toenail clipper in my carry-on or anything. But if I did, they would find it and they would take it. But how many of these would they let me take on?
Mhm. Mhm. And
You
that
can
just-
kill
that-
somebody with a pen, a
Yeah,
pencil.
you sure could.
So just that tells you safety is a myth. Take your shoes off. Well, but you let me have 3 of these, but I have to take my shoes off.
Mhm.
I mean, you know,
Mhm.
so it's just, it's a myth. It's like, oh, if you go through and then you're safe on the airplane. No, you're not safe on the
Yeah, yeah,
airplane.
yeah.
I
Hmm.
mean, you are safer if you pay attention to who else is around there. You are safer if you have a plan, if somebody goes bonkers, you know, and I would hope that there are big burly people there to take down whoever it is. You know, because I don't know that I would be that much of a help. You know, but it's like you just do the best you can. And I think people who reach that place where I can be at times, it's just they just trust that they're doing the best they can. And there are things over which they have no control.
Mhm.
And they have dealt with unpleasant, difficult situations at other times in their life. And if something happens, they'll deal with it again.
Mm.
And since, you know, any of us who are here, we've all had difficult
Mhm.
situations.
Mhm.
We're all here. That means we all survived them. We all learned something from them. We all have skills
Mhm. Mhm.
that we maybe did not want to develop them,
Mhm.
but we did. And we may not want to have to use them again, and we can. And it's just being accepting that, yeah, there's things over which I have no control. And if something bad happens, I'll be okay. I'll manage. Sometimes I can't say I'll be okay, but I do say I'll manage. I've managed for 81 years. I mean, lots of bad things have happened. So, you know, nobody's killed me yet.
Well, that's a good thing.
So I don't know how I'll manage that, but
Yeah.
until we get to sort of that point, I'll manage, or I'll actually
Okay.
be okay.
Yeah, yeah. But I'm gonna keep on thinking about it
Uh,
because
yeah,
I see Neb raise his hand,
yeah.
but because it's almost like happiness. We want it. We want to feel safe.
Yes.
So, but okay, I'm gonna let Neb join in the conversation. He sent me this really wonderful link too. Go right ahead, Neb.
How can people forgive a mass shooter?
Mm.
They
Yeah.
They can. So I
I
look
do.
at that in terms of how, you know, how do you feel safe when things are dicey. Well, if they can forgive a mass
Yeah.
shooter, I can figure out how to be safe, how to feel,
Okay.
safe,
How to feel safe.
how to feel safe. So I'm sorry, Nib. I'm
Uh-huh.
trying
No, no, go
Neb.
ahead.
to mute myself.
And then
I,
I'm going to
uh,
ask everybody else while Neb is talking, think about what being safe means to you. And then we can hear from you all later. Go ahead, Neb.
just a couple of things. Um, First of all, if mental health is the focus, why so much attention to illness? If we are saying that someone who is not satisfied with what they perceive as an oppressive society and act differently, why do we label them as ill? The Veterans Administration has accepted the fact that discrimination and oppression and racism can cause one to express PTSD or other forms of disconnection. My question to them is, who is in need of treatment? The person who is oppressed and discriminated against, or the person who chooses to discriminate? Again, we go back to the subway. Who was in need of treatment? Was it the person expressing his unhappiness with his life, or the one who took his life? That is the question. We focus the person who his life was terminated as being ill, and not the person who had a perspective of the world that says whether it's okay to do it or not, but who did it. So, and there's only one person that we can help now, and that is the person who committed the act. And if we choose to say to that person that this was in a acceptable act and you don't need any help, what are we really doing? Um, my question in terms of safety is, it is always relative. Where are you, and what's going on around you, and are you capable, able to provide yourself a safe space, or are those around you interested in a safe space, or are they interested in being I guess non-safe is the easiest way to say it. Are they interested in causing harm to you and others as a method for them to level their world? So are we really talking about, this is my final question, are we really talking about persons who choose not to see the world as okay and act out that choice, whether or not they injure other people or not, but they don't see the world as okay, and others who choose to see the world as okay, even though it is destructive for many people? Who is in need of assistance? The corollary would be in child abuse and neglect. We lock the child up, and the child is the victim.
Wow. Okay. Thank you, Neb. Were you expecting us to answer that question today?
I just throw it out, and if you have answers, fine. If not, that's okay.
Okay, all right. Well, I like the questions you pose, the question you pose about who really is in need of help. The offender or the person who is the victim. I'm gonna really rethink that that situation in that happened with Mr. Penny. I really am going to think about it, and I think a lot of people ought to be thinking about it differently especially as it relates to mental health and mental illness. Okay, does anybody have anything they want to add? Who wants to answer the question? Who really needs help? Who is it that we should be helping? Well, we can't help Mr. Penny because Mr. Penny is now dead. But there are other people who have had a similar experience that didn't die. But who should we be helping? Oh, Judith said something. Sure was. Okay. No? Nobody? Wants to take a stab at answering it? All right, we'll come back to it then. Oh, Jerry turned on his microphone.
Yes, ma'am. Well, I figured I'd take a stab. Might be far off on it, but as far as who we should be helping, I think it's kind of twofold. Of course, there's people out there that are mentally diagnosed with obvious mental illnesses that need to be treated. However, I mean, if we talk about fear and the causation of behaviors, as I believe Ms. Judith has pointed out, that our society has become more rampant of fear and people acting out of fear. Why is that? And is that illness that we need to treat? Is it illness, but the challenge is getting them come in to seek the treatment. And how do we make them aware of that they need to be treated? Is it a national campaign that we need to start looking at doing to address this, to address these misplaced fears? Because I mean, there is some healthy fears. That's what's kept our species of humans, from generation to generation, being fear of the unknown, of the, if we think back in primitive time, fear of the predators that could come and, hurt us. That's basic Darwinism, I believe. However, there are some unfounded fears that is being perpetuated, I think, by a lot of our society that, as Ms. Jesus pointed out, that totally disables and allows us, or not allows us, but causes an action, an unfortunate action, or an action or decision that isn't really over the top and unnecessary, I think. I hope that makes sense.
Thank you. Yeah, it makes sense. It makes sense. All right. Thank you, Jerry, for being the first time you're here and being willing to add to the conversation. Anybody else? All right. So let's kind of think about how you see safety, how you define safety for yourselves. Anybody want to get us started? Judith already did. She did. She gave us you talked about it really well, Judith. Did you want to add something? Go ahead.
Well, my fear, the foundation of oppression, suppression, depression was accepted for the conference. And when I sent the proposal in, I also added panic. And so I'm doing it more like a seminarish kind of thing where we'll sit around and talk about these concepts. But I think the other piece that's really important to add, and so this is like blessing time for me, is the whole concept of safety. Fear, as Jerry was saying, has served us through the millennial. So, so now what? But I do think that as long as we look at what's out there to meet our needs, we are vulnerable to the fear mongering. And as I was saying to basic week I was doing last week, even the commercials that you see that look like they're positive, and I just picked out the truck and the cars that are going through the mud and up to the top of the mountain and all of that kind of thing. And if you have this car, blah, blah, or truck kind of thing. But the underlying message is you're not enough if you don't have it. So there's the underlying fear of not meeting one of your needs if you don't have their product. And so it's actually insidious, because and I don't, and the answer, is Neb so eloquently pointed out, is always within us, that over which we have control. I mean, Glasser is extremely clear. And then you look at the Serenity Prayer, and the thing that I've added to the Serenity Prayer is, and that's important to me, it's easy to accept things over which I have no control if I don't care about them. But if I care about them, that's a little more challenging to accept that I can't change it. So that just something in adding that these conversations are so valuable to me on a lot of levels, both personally, I get to connect with people from around the US kind of thing. And then because I'm still actively teaching, and that I get so many great ideas in terms of what we're doing, you know, how to present things, examples, and that kind of thing.
Thank you, Judith. Doug?
Well, I mean, it's I see it kind of as maybe different levels or different perspectives, but in the most basic sense, safety for me, and this is just kind of something that's, I think, important, but hadn't really thought about before all that much before. But in the basic sense, safety is if I don't want to have to worry about something trying to harm me in some way, either physically or mentally. So I mean, in that way, I can feel safe. I guess on another level, maybe you could say, internally, or are the events of the world going to make me do things that I would rather not do? Like, okay, I saw that commercial, just as an example. I mean, I'm sure there's many other better examples, but I saw this car commercial, and now I feel like I'm not enough. So I need to go out and buy this car. And of course, that's the trap with material things, is that you'll need the next one. You'll need that next car. So now you need a car. Oh, we'll convince you to buy a car a year from now, because that thing really doesn't satisfy your needs. So I guess on another level, do you have those things in your life that are really, are you putting things in your life that are solid, that are not going to just wash away with the tide, or blow away in the wind?
Okay, thank you, Doug. All right, Rhonda. Oh, Jody raised her hand. Oh, sorry. Hold on, Rhonda. I didn't see Jody's hand go up till I called you. Go ahead, Jody.
Sorry, y'all. It's been a little chaotic in my house this afternoon. It's normally a lot calmer over here. I was thinking about your question, Dr. Cisse, about what safety feels like for me, or what it looks like. But then I also was thinking about Neb's question a little bit too. And I think my response goes kind of hand in hand with what Jerry said, because the first thing that came to my mind was prevention. we definitely have a mental health crisis, and I'm not making excuses for the people who go out and do horrible things. But one of the things that I've definitely noticed is it seems like a lot of times there are underlying mental health issues and things like that that exist. And of course, we still have this stigma surrounding mental health and mental health treatment. And so how do we, again, I feel like I always pose that question, but how do we end the stigma, and how do we educate more people, and how do we get out into the communities and provide resources that are so desperately needed? Because I think that prevention is just, huge. That's what keeps resounding in my mind, because I don't know. I mean, by the time that someone goes out and does a horrible thing, they either end up getting killed, on the scene, or they end up behind bars for the rest of their lives, or until they're sentenced to death or whatnot. So by that point, it's too late for them. And it's also too late for the people who end up dead as a result of what they've done. And at that point, it's the victims who need the help. It's too late for the one who's gone out and committed the crime. So I don't know. That's kind of where my brain went on that. As far as what safety looks like for me, I think it's changed over the course of my life, because what safety looks like and what safety feels like for me now, in middle age, is completely different than what it felt like as a little girl. Because when I was a little girl, safety was, being with my mom and dad, or being curled up in my parents' lap, and, being read a story, or being tucked into bed or whatever. And I just didn't have the level of fear that, exists as an adult. As a teenager, I don't think I really thought too much about safety, because, when you're a teenager, you just think that you're invincible, and you just think that you're going to live forever. And so I don't really know, what safety looked like for me then. I think it just, I think I lived at that point in my life. Maybe I just lived on the prayers of my mom and my dad and my grandparents. I don't know. But as an adult, what is safety, and are we really ever safe? Because the world is just in shambles, for one thing. And I feel safer where we are now than I felt when we lived in the city, because now I'm kind of out here in the middle of nowhere. But I don't even know that I'm really safe here, because there are bad people in the world. And then, of course, now we have so much conflict with other nations that I don't think any of us are really safe. And I believe that that's kind of where I rest now. I just put my trust in God, because, at this point I really don't have a lot of control over certain things that go on in the world. So I don't know. I don't know if that answers the question, or if I'm just rambling, but
No,
that's
that was a good response. A good response. We live in an unsafe world. Okay. And so then we reconcile ourselves with it, and we do whatever. Okay. All right. Rhonda, thank you, Jody.
Yeah, with the issue of safe, there's no easy answer to the question, what is safe? Because like Jody said, there's so much turmoil in the world that it's really hard to say what safe is anymore. And with me, my view of safety changed drastically within two months ago, after I had a gun pulled on me. So I'm questioning what is safe now for me.
Okay.
And that question will always arise from, because I feel like going anywhere, I'm not safe anymore after the incident I had. So I'm questioning it constantly.
Yeah. Wow. So Judith says safety is a myth. Nev says safety is relative. And everyone else seems to kind of agree. So how do we, I wonder though, how that's going to impact us long-term. You know, if we see safety as something that's like out of our reach, or that we can't truly experience, how is that going to impact us long-term? And I know, Judith, that's probably something that you're going to cover in your presentation. Because, you know, one of the things that I studied, I used in my dissertation, was the attachment theory, right? And attachment theory says that we all must, you know, we must, in order to develop and have good relationships and whatever throughout our lives, that it's important for us to have a secure base, or a place where we feel safe, right? And that secure base, having or not having a secure base, significantly impacts your mental health. And so I'm just thinking out loud and wondering then, where does that lead us? Doug has his hand up. I want to go on and hear what you have to say, Doug.
So yeah, I mean, it's it was it's one of the I guess one of the central people in the Baha'i faith said that one of the ways you can become spiritual is to think about death, and you know, and safety, I think, is, you know, in some way, you know, related to that. But I guess the point I wanted to make is that when I was saying, like, one of the, you know, this physical safety is fleeting. And there is, you know, we aren't guaranteed anything here. And I guess kind of what I was referencing, I'll just say it for me specifically. And I think each individual has to search for this and find it for themselves, is find that thing that's kind of their foundation. And when I know for me, it was trying to be, you know, the best person I can be. And for that, so that's, for me, it's religion. You know, it's my religion that I feel is, you know, so that, I guess that safety for me would be trying to do those things it tells me to do in the best way that I can. And so I guess that would be my answer for what is true safety. That would be your true safety, because you're not really guaranteed to be physically or, you know, physically safe.
Okay, thank you. Now,
I think that's a fantastic answer. I also think that in the society in which we live, there are guarantors of safety if you are a certain person, if you have a certain status, if you live in a certain community, if if you choose, for instance, to be a member of a gang. Why do some young people, I guess older people too, join gangs? For safety. And we say, well, you don't need that. But then they say, well, I'm not safe in my community unless I choose to be a member of this gang. There used to be, in my life, safety in childhood. Not only were you physically safe, but there was protection from even those who were dangerous to other people. You had a level of protection. There were safe spaces. There were safe jobs that you could have. You know, ministers were safe. All of these safe havens seem to have been blown away. Our children are not safe in schools. Attending church is not a place of safety. When we were about to go into combat, our safety was in prayer.
Mhm.
And I mean, I think about it now, but then I didn't think about it as, I'm being protected by this prayer, because what about the other side? And if the creator chooses the other side, anyway, just the thought. Whose side are you on today?
Mhm.
The other piece is I was thinking about safety in sleep, and I remember this ditty that now I lay me down to sleep.
Mhm.
I pray the Lord my soul to keep.
Mhm.
If I should die before I wake, I pray the Lord my soul to take.
Mhm.
Trauma. Just a thought.
Yeah, yeah. Wow. Wow. I got lots of notes, so I'm going to be looking at lots of stuff because I think this is important. I was in a meeting not too long ago, maybe last week. I got what do you call it? Appointed to a council on aging in our community. And we were talking about things that we could do in the community to kind of help the seniors, the people who are aging in our community, know more about mental health, the resources that are available, those kinds of things, And so I suggested, one person suggested that we do a resource fair at at a centralized location, which is a good idea because, there are lots of resources that people who are aging are not aware of, and they need to be made aware of it. And I suggested that I said that was a good idea, but I think we should do some in the communities where aging individuals live. And because, then somebody else came back with, oh, there's going to be this big event in Perry. And I said, I have been in aging people's homes who cannot leave their house. How are they going to get to Perry? How are you going to get to Perry? Perry is a community a little south of here, probably, I don't know, maybe takes you about 45 minutes to drive to Perry from Macon. And I've been in people's houses who, they don't have a car, aging people. And so I pressed the issue. And so this other woman chimed in and she said, there's no safety. Nobody older people want to come out and do community events because it's not safe, right? And we do community things. We do community things around here all the time. I'm going to a really big one tomorrow. I was at one today at a church. And so then we're going to do those events in the neighborhoods where aging people live. And one of the other people on our council said, then that sounds like an issue. This helping people to be safe in their own neighborhoods sounds like an issue that we need to address. And so all of this is going to add to my ability. The conversation that we've had today is going to, because for me, it's still about those individuals' mental health as well as their physical health. But how if safety's fleeting, if it's even just a myth, then but there still has to somehow be, for a moment, there has to be a sense that it's okay to step outside of your house and get access to something that you really need. Or even if we go to the neighborhood where folks live, then they have to feel safe enough to open the door to receive the whatever it is that we're trying to offer to them. So, but it's something for me to keep thinking about. It really is. It really is something to keep thinking about. And then from a personal perspective, I do a lot of stuff that I probably should be afraid to do. And I, it's funny because after I do it, then I get a little scared, but in the moment, I just do it. But safety is really important. And I know that when I talk to people about safety, there are people who describe it very differently than I've ever experienced it. Yes, Judith.
I think the ultimate fear for many people is the fear of dying.
Yeah.
And so as long as you're afraid of dying, then there's a whole nother layer or layers of restrictions that you have. And years ago, I had a woman who threatened to kill me and made a couple of efforts. Thankfully, she did not succeed.
Yeah.
But I remember being just, the terror was real.
Mhm.
Part of that was because my son was like 7, 8, 9 years old, and that was different. I have locks on the doors. I have a security system kind of thing, but that I got way back when, just to be on the safe side. But the other thing that was really a gift for me at the time is I had a brother who was really into martial arts, and then she always said she was going to come after me with a butcher knife. And my brother said, so you have a stout stick by your bed. She gets in, and be prepared. You will be cut. But if you have the stick, you can keep her far enough away that she cannot kill you until help arrives. But it was that, what do you mean I'll be cut kind of thing? But when I reached the point where I was like, okay, but if I do this, she can't kill me. So I'll be cut. So I'll have stitches. So I may have some scars, but I won't be dead. That was just this huge release of all of that. But accepting there is safety. If we think of safety as no bad things will ever happen to me. We had one of the wealthiest families in our area. The mother was killed by a drunk driver last weekend. Not even gun violence.
Yeah.
Somebody drunk behind the wheel of the car smashed, I look at Paul Pelosi in his own home. Somebody breaks in and you can't even say, well, if you are important and wealthy and privileged, that protects you from bad things happening. It may protect you from some bad things happening or certain bad things, but not everything. Sure. And just accepting for me is bad things may happen, but I've been around a long time. I've survived. I have a lot of coping skills. I have a lot of survival skills. Do I want to use any of them? No. But I have them. And the universe decided to let me test them out by not having a refrigerator freezer for 7 days. In the hottest May Portland has ever had. 5 days in the 90s, 8 days in the mid to high 80s. That's 13 days out of 19. And I did not have a working fridge through all 5 90-degree days. And the other 2, like 8. Oh, it's cooling off to 88. Whoa, are we lucky? So it's like, do I want things like that to happen? No. Was it stressful and all of that? Yes. But I do know how to buy a bag of ice. I do have a cooler. I managed.
The
Not always
key.
gracefully, but
Mhm.
you know, I'm here. So I mean, to me, it's that acceptance that if it's my time, it's my time.
Yeah.
And as Doug is saying, I live the best life I know how every day. And if it's my time, it's my time. And I
Yeah,
have no control over that.
that's right. None of us. Wow. All right. Thank you. Thank you all very much. See, we didn't know we're gonna have a good conversation, but we did. I appreciate you all for helping me with this and being willing to have this conversation. Doug has sent me a topic, and I really would like to have others of you volunteer to bring a topic. And there are 6 people here other than me. So that means we could have 6 topics from this room. That would be for the rest of the year. Then I don't have to think about coming up with a topic anymore. Doug has already sent me something, so.
I would like to suggest that we start the June meeting with whomever who is here, who comes to the June meeting, sharing how the discussion that we've had on safety and all of that, what shifts or changes, what have we noticed, that kind of thing. I think that's really valuable.
Okay. Mhm.
To see, for me, to see how our discussions are impacting people's lives. And I would just also like to say before signing off, Rhonda, I am so sorry that that happened to you. That just, it should not happen to anybody, but I know you, so it's particularly awful that it happened to somebody I know. And do take care of yourself. You are in my prayers that all will come right for you. No.
Okay, thank you, Judith. So we know June. So Doug, do you think you'll be ready in July?
Yeah, I think so. I just got to take, as I sent you those discussion points, I have to sort of fill it in with some more talking points, put it into PowerPoint. So yes, pretty sure I'll be ready by then, provided work doesn't get too busy, but I'm going to try not to let it get that way.
Okay.
But-
All right. Okay, who wants to do August?
I'll take August.
All right, so we got Jody. You have so you guys just send me the topic. All right. All right, who wants to do September?
I want to go back to white privilege.
Oh, okay, all right. So we'll put Jody in white privilege.
You know, that's been one of those things that's just resounded for me over the last couple of years since I had that experience. And so I'd really like to just kind of go back to that for a little bit,
Okay.
if that's okay.
Oh, no, it's fine. You know, I thought about white fragility when you said that. And so, but I like white privilege.
Interesting to cover, maybe cover both.
Mm-hmm.
I could probably tie both in.
Okay.
Yeah,
Jerry, Neb? Oh, Jerry turned on his mic.
Yes, ma'am. I'm sorry. I was just going to ask, has the topic of race-based trauma and its connection with PTSD ever been discussed?
It can be. I think Neb sent me a really wonderful article from the Veterans Administration about that.
Okay.
Race-based trauma. What did you say? Race-based trauma and what?
Its connection with PTSD.
Connection.
Because I mean, if you look at the DSM-5, it doesn't even mention race as a contributing factor towards PTSD.
No, it doesn't. Okay. All right, Neb, you ready for October? Now he's going to pretend he doesn't know how to turn on his microphone.
I'll do social justice.
Social justice. Love it, love it, love it.
I'm excited. These all sound so good.
And you know, we were gonna add critical race theory at some point, Neb, and I know that you were you had some, and I have a book on my bookshelf, but I can't read it. It's too much legalese. Oh, this is not his book. Oh, I have it. Oh. Y'all excuse me for turning my back to the camera. My public speaking teacher would have a fit. This is it. I have two of them. This one I have. Oh, this one's. Okay, all right, but I'm not familiar enough. I can't read this stuff. I have the books and I keep thinking I'm gonna read it, but it's too much. I can't decipher the language. So we can have a conversation about maybe in the new year on critical race theory. Okay, all right, Rhonda, did you want to bring a topic?
I can do one. And the critical critical race theory, I've been thinking about that a lot.
No, Neb is doing critical race theory.
Okay.
Mhm,
Education and racism.
okay. I watched a what do you call it? A YouTube video on the trauma in the schools. And you know, I think about all the traumatic things that happen in schools, but for somebody to stand, this lady did a whole TED talk on how traumatic being in school can be. You know, teachers telling kids they're not this and they're not that, and they're not gonna do this and do that. Oh, it's not just about the bullying. Mhm.
Oh, now too is just out of control and
Yeah. Yeah, but she was talking primarily about teacher bullying of children, and I thought that was really interesting. But anyway, there's that. Thank you all very much. Now we got our topics for the next 6 months.
Yay.
I'll see you all in June.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.
Take care, everyone.
All
Bye.
right, have a good one.